make sure that Globe is running effectively both internally and externally. Internally through surveys as well as externally through surveys to see what impact Globe is making in its countries of operations.
First and foremost, I want to start us all off with forcing for the interpassability side. One of our objectives this semester was to try to build a bridge between our borrowers and Globe to increase the knowledge base and also the understanding of how can Globe benefit my life long term and my family or environment. By doing so, we created a newsletter to emphasize the importance and of all of the things that goes into being a successful borrower, with also updating our pamphlets to increase the knowledge base of knowing exactly what it is going on in your country when it comes down to health, business, and finance.
On the program impact audit side, what we first focused on is doing research on social impact. So this year what we did is we found a systematic way to actually record and measure the success we have towards the entrepreneurs and also the communities they're involved with. And we did this through putting that social impact research into our pre-loan and follow-up surveys so we can actually record that progress. On the internal side, we implemented a new bi-weekly survey to increase the program's efficiency and fill in the gaps that past Globe managers weren't able to do. And before we start off, we actually had to contact we have to write a letter to the Daughters of Charity in order to communicate with them about the social impact research.
So in the process of completing our enterprise development objectives, which included the newsletter and the pamphlets, as well as the external portion, the external audit portion of our objectives, which are to create the pre-loan surveys and the follow-up loan surveys to gauge social impact of Globe, we thought that it was very important to contact the Daughters of Charity. So this semester, we actually contacted and were able to communicate with the Daughters of Charity in Nicaragua. And in reaching out to them, we had hoped to gain information and content that we could include in the newsletter and in the pamphlet, as well as the external audit side to gain insight on the significant impacts that our borrowers are currently affected by. So that would, and then in turn, we could include that the information that we got from the borrowers about the impact, and include that in the pre-loan and the follow-up surveys to gauge social impact in a more efficient and a better way. And also, we actually contacted them as well to find out the preferred method of receiving these materials. Because if you think about it, you have the newsletter, you have the pamphlets, you have the surveys. How do we get this to them? Because that's a very big challenge that the Globe managers, the future Globe managers, will definitely have their hands on. And furthermore, Francesca will talk about how what the Nicaragua Daughters of Charity responded in their letter, and also the method in what we used as a team to reach out to them.
So after drafting the letter in an attempt to facilitate communication between us and the Daughters of Charity in Nicaragua, we had the letter translated into Spanish. Unfortunately, none of us speak Spanish in our group well enough to have the letter translated, so we had to rely on some of our sources. We were able to get the assistance of the LINA and of the Spanish tutors at the GLCC, which is the Global Language and Culture Center here at St. John's University. So the letter contained the vast amount of really helpful information, but the highlight came in the form of a success story, which we would include in our newsletter. So the highlight of the story is about one of our past borrowers called Sonia, which was a mother of 2 children who valued their health and well-being above anything, which is what pushed her to create and run her own business to sell used clothing or cosmetic products. So once she found out about Globe and the impacts of the microloan, she reached out to us to get a loan. And through the loan, she was able to expand her inventory and add other products such as jewelry or school supplies. So what's really impressive about her business is that what really depicts her ability to think as an entrepreneur and determination to succeed is that she made her business mobile, meaning that she would move around from place to place, so whether that was outside her house or at her children's school, in order to meet and satisfy more and more customers.
So does everybody have their passports ready to go on a trip to embark? This semester, one of our goals was to figure out what exactly we can do to increase the excitement, to increase the engagement with our borrowers. One of our ideas was the newsletter called Passport. So we want to take our borrowers on a trip to be successful with gold and social entrepreneurship. So within the newsletter, we have a synopsis basically explaining who and what a successful borrower is, explaining how much they took out in loans, when they paid their loans back, and also just basic information to talk about their struggle and how they came from where they are before and to now. Also, it's an advice column, just pretty much asking simple questions such as, what are issues going on in the health sector, finance sector, also the education sector in their specific countries, and how their social impact can actually change and make lives better for their neighborhoods.
And continuing on what Nick said, we want our borrowers to be successful. So here at GLOW, we believe that the pamphlets are the heart of the program. So on the cover page here, you can see Miss Beautiful Maria on our right, and you can also see pictures from the Daughters of Charity in the various strips. This year, what we have done is we tailored each of the pamphlets to the 6 countries of operation. If you do see your pamphlet is on one of the tables here, various pamphlets that are dispersed around here, and each pamphlet represents the country that of operation. We divided into 3 sections: smart business practices, how to save money, and smart health practices, because we want our borrowers to be able to utilize the funds and the microloans to the best of their ability. So they can find tips as how to save money, cut on unnecessary expenses, simple things such as quit smoking. We want it to be simple and clear for our borrowers so that they can have the maximum use of success.
Okay. So we are now on the external auditing side of our role, and we had to conduct research first to know what social impact was in order to create questions for our preload and follow-up surveys. From the research we conducted, we found out that there was no specific definition for social impact, and it was just a jargon used by non-profit organizations. We decided then that social impact had to be systemic, it had to be social, and it had to lead to improvement. Rachel is going to go further into the research process as well as what we define as social impact based on what we know.
We utilized many various research techniques, and we've used different tools as far as we looked at articles that were related to social impact. We learned about them in class. We used our class textbook and in-class lectures from Dr. Salma. And we also had the pleasure of having Dr. Barrett Brenton. He's a professor here. And he's also a steering committee member as well. So he talked and he spoke to the class about how we can use geographical information systems so that it could help us analyze social impact more efficiently. And you can see on the map here, we did research on worldmapper.org, and what we did was we researched less than $1 a day. So we looked for countries that there's a high percentage of people who live on less than $1 a day. And so as you can see, the countries are skewed because the bigger the country, the bigger the population of the percentage of the people living on less than $1 a day. And you can see Nigeria right in the middle. Nigeria is visible on this map, and we operate in Nigeria. And so certainly some of our borrowers very well may be in that category. So and do live in less than $1 a day. So in doing the social impact research, we decided that these categories are what we think social impact and what we would focus social impact on when we analyze the countries and the borrowers and how our loans affect them and their lives. So despite the fact that it's very difficult, and we've learned through our research and in class, it's very difficult to actually measure social impact. Like, what is social impact? It's not something that's, a standardized method in microfinance. But what we know is that, and what we've learned and what's been proven over the years, is that it promotes and encourages women empowerment. As you could tell, if you could remember, the financing said 85% of our borrowers are women. So it's very important to note that. And then also, our borrowers affect their community. They are very active in their community. In particular, I want to talk about the 20 women borrowers in the Philippines. The Philippines is a new country that we currently work with, but there were 20 borrowers in the Philippines that Globe gave a loan to, and what they decided, and they took the initiative on, is they used 20% of what they earned from the businesses that they manage. They used 20% of that to loan it to other borrowers. So as a result, you have 100 borrowers, and that wasn't even something that Globe expected. So they make such a huge impact on their communities. So and those 20 women are also responsible for that. So that's a lot of pressure on them, and it's a lot of dedication on their part to impact their community in that way. And finally, education is very important because with education, it breaks the vicious cycle of generational poverty. And with that, understanding what social impact means and doing some research, we were able to tailor our questions and create a pre-survey and a follow-up loan, which was the last portion of our external audit objectives.
All right, so the pre and follow-up loan surveys, we completely redesigned to make both surveys more cohesive with each other. As you can see, the pre-loan survey is broken into categories where the questions are based upon evaluating the current condition of the borrowers when they apply. With moving on to the follow-up loan survey, the questions are almost exactly the same in terms of the categories, slightly different for one category, and we use that to determine how the loan from Globe has affected the borrowers. This is given about 6 months after the repayment of the loan, although we understand that that is flexible because it's very hard to get in contact with our borrowers. So that will be done through fellowship trips to their country, or through the Daughters of Charity, or by the borrower applying for a second loan.